In this quick video, I want to show you a drop dead simple example of automation with make.com that's easy for beginners to understand. I see a lot of amazing tutorials. This guy, Jonah, is one of my very favorite guys. A lot of his stuff is super complicated, and I know he has some beginner tutorials, but I wanted to do something drop dead simple so you could really understand if you're wanting to automate the stuff that you're doing over and over again every day. I want to show you how to think about it and give you a very simple example. So let's take the simplest thing that I can imagine. Let's assume that we've got a folder on our hard drive, whether it's a Mac or a PC, and we want to watch that folder. Let's call it the first folder. And anytime something comes into that folder, we want to see it and we want to operate on it and put it into the second folder. Now, this is a drop dead silly example, but basically what we're saying is if we have a file that for some reason someone on our team moves into folder number 1, we want to see that even if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and we want to move that file to folder number 2. Now, obviously, this is a really simple example, but you can imagine in real workflows, maybe when your videographer puts a file in folder 1, you need to edit it or transcribe it or do something to it to improve it and put it into folder 2. And make.com can do all those amazing things. In fact, you can integrate all kinds of stuff with make.com. But let's start with a simple example of if something arrives in folder 1, I'm going to move it automatically, magically, as if by magic, to folder 2. So to do that, what we need is a scenario. So if you go over to make.com, you can get an account. In fact, you can get a free account and you can set it up and create a new scenario. And when you create a new scenario, you're presented with this giant purple plus sign, and it's asking you, what is going to trigger your automation? What's the thing that's going to happen that's going to cause make.com to leap into action and do the thing? And in this case, the thing is move the file. What's going to cause that? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to watch our Dropbox folder. Now, you could do this. You could watch a Google Sheet. You could watch a Google Drive. There's lots of hundreds, literally, of things that you could use to trigger make.com. But in our case, we're watching this file over here. We want to watch first folder and wait to see if a file arrives. So we're going to say Dropbox, and look right here. We have a trigger type of action, watch files. We're going to pick that, and it's going to ask us some questions. First, it's going to ask us, obviously, what Dropbox account do you want to watch? And so you log in with your Dropbox credentials here by hitting the add button. Then it's going to ask you, how do you want to do this? Do you want to select from a list of folders? How do you want to search these folders? And it's going to ask you to pick the folder that you want to watch. Now, in our case, we are going to look on our Dropbox, and all the way down at the bottom, which is probably a little bit hard to see, we're going to have the test path that we showed before, and we're going to pick from there the first folder. So we're telling it, select a file that appears in first folder. Do we want it to watch subfolders underneath that? No. And we want it, for the purpose of this example, to operate on one file at a time. And we want it to, at least starting from this point forward, we want it to operate from now on. So anytime from now on, when a file appears in that directory, we want it to operate. You might have a case where you already had 100 files there and you could make another choice, but our directory is empty, so we're going to say from now on. So if we go ahead and we put a file in that directory, let's see what happens. So we take a file there and we put it in there. What happens? Absolutely nothing. And why is that? Because right now, our automation is not turned on to run automatically. That's this button down here at the bottom of the screen. But what if we manually run it once? What happens? Wow. It says, look, I see a file in this folder. So we've proven that it can detect the files in that folder. So what did we say we wanted to do? When we find a file in a folder, we want to move it to another folder. For that, we need an action. So we're going to hit the plus button, And it's another Dropbox action because we want Dropbox to move the file from the first location to the second folder location. So now if we go look into Dropbox, we can see that there's all kinds of things we can do here with Dropbox, and one of them is exactly the thing we need to do, which is move a file or folder. Our Dropbox account is already connected, and the path to our file is right here in Path Display. So you'll notice when we ran that before, it says 1 right here. That means it found one file. And here's all the information that it found out about the file. And one of the things that it found out when it found that file is the path. This is the actual file name and place on your hard drive where it's located. So when we go to move the file, we're telling it, I want you to move that file at the location Path Display. This is where the file is. And the next question, the obvious question, the thing that you would tell your intern or whomever you were asking to move these files is, where do you want me to put it? I want you to put it in a folder called, what did we call it? Second folder. And that's it. And you could rename it here, and there are some advanced settings that you could play around with, but that's about it. So now if I put a new file over there, let's put this number 5 file, and I run this automation one time, then it's going to find that file and it's going to move that file for us. So you can see it found this file, the 005 file, and it moved that file right here, 005 from here to here. And of course, if we go over to the Finder and we go over here and look at this, here's the file, the second folder file. It's no longer in the first folder where we put it. It's now in the second folder. That's really cool. But wait, we want this to happen all the time. So what do? Well, once we like our automation and we're good to go, we tell it we want it to run at regular intervals. Every 15 minutes, we want to check that folder and make sure that it moves things. So if we go back over here to Finder and we put a new folder, a new file in first folder, and we can sit here and watch that, sometime within the next 15 minutes, it will see that that file is in that folder, and as if by magic, it will move it over. We can force that to happen by hitting the Run Once button, and sure enough, it'll move that just fine. Here you can see the file's been moved out of first folder to second folder. So I hope this helps you, because you can do a lot of really cool and sophisticated things here. For example, right here in the middle, we could add a module to do something like, oh, I don't know, transcribe the file with Whisker, or convert the file from MP4 to MP3 to extract the audio, those sort of things. Now, since this is a beginner tutorial, we won't do that here. But once you understand the basic idea of moving a file from point A to point B, there's all kinds of automations you can imagine. Watch for a new row in a spreadsheet. Watch for a new item in an RSS feed. All kinds of ideas can come to your mind, and you can start exploring with Make.com. I hope this is helpful to you. My name is Mark Mason from Late Night Internet Marketing. If you enjoy these simple, straightforward how-to tutorial videos, hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you'd like to see. I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love to make some videos of stuff that you're interested in. Ciao.